Welcome to Stillwater's Wreath Designs. Today I'm going to teach you a super cute and easy paw print wreath. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Hello, my wreath making friends. Welcome, and come on in. I'm so excited to make this paw print wreath for you. If you've been around my channel for very long, you've heard me probably mention several times what a dog lover, animal lover I am. Specifically, my rescued deaf pit bull, who is the keeper of my heart in addition to my family. And so I'm super excited to make this paw print wreath with you today. So let me show you the supplies we're going to use, friends. This wreath, let me just tell you, is a very simple wreath to do. It's very cost effective. It just is a little bit timely because of the repetitive motions that you'll notice here in a short bit. So the materials that you'll need, friends, one heart-shaped wire wreath frame. This is from the Dollar Tree. And two packs of the small 8-inch wire wreath frames from the Dollar Tree, and you will use all 4. And then you're also going to need a couple of rolls of this, it's called Go for Faux Thick and Quick yarn. And it's just a thick, furry, fuzzy, soft yarn. I actually picked this up from Amazon. I believe it takes 2.5 or 3.5 skeins of this yarn, so I always buy it in a 3-pack. And of course, then the tools that you'll need will be a good pair of scissors, your hot glue gun, and some glue sticks. And then we'll also use a variety of pet-themed wired ribbon at the end for a cute little bow. I'll be sure to leave a full materials and tools list for you in the description of this video below so that you can recreate this if you'd like to do so. Friends, let me just take a quick moment, and if you are new to my channel, welcome. I'm so happy to have you. Stillwater's Wreath Designs is all about wreath and door swag step-by-step tutorials. We actually upload tutorials every single week. And I'd love for you to join our little creative community, so be sure to hit that subscribe button. All right, friends, let's go ahead and dive in. If you've not already done so, make sure you have plugged in your hot glue gun and you've got your glue sticks ready. We're just going to pop these tags off of our wreath frames here. So let me show you quickly how this actually comes together, friends. Basically, all we're going to do is wrap all of these frames with our fuzzy yarn. Once we're done, then we're going to add, I forgot to mention this earlier, my apologies, some zip ties to connect all of the pieces together. And you can see how that's going to create a super cute paw print. All right, friends, so go ahead and grab your heart wreath frame and one of your skeins of yarn. This is actually a cute tannish with a variety of different shades of brown in this yarn, but they sell all kinds of different colors, so you can really customize this wreath so that it matches the same color of your fur babies. You get your yarn, friends, it's gonna be in a ball like this. You're just gonna take that paper off of the ball and then find an end. What you don't want to do is unwrap the entire skein of yarn. So just kind of work to find the end. If you can avoid your skein coming undone, that is ideal, because otherwise you're going to have to hold it by fistfuls like I'm going to have to do. But it was tricky for me to find my ends, so it is what it is. So what you're going to do, friends, is at any crossbar on your wreath frame, and just a little wreath 101, regardless of the shape of your wire wreath frame, you're always going to have a certain number of wire rings around your frame. In this case, we have 3, the inner, the middle, and the outer. You'll also have crossbars that go across your wire frame at various points, which then leaves you with sections. So each space between the crossbars is considered a section. So it doesn't matter where you start, just go ahead and find a crossbar, and really all you're going to do, friends, is taking your fuzzy yarn and running it underneath any crossbar so that you're going kind of catty corner as an anchor. Go ahead and double tie or knot that fuzzy yarn and give it a real nice tight knot right there on that crossbar. And don't worry about that little bitty tail, friends. This yarn, if you can see, it's probably every bit of 1/2 inch thick, and it's furry and fuzzy and super cute and very forgiving. So it hides lots of flaws. And at this point, friends, all we're going to do is wrap this yarn all the way around our frame. We will run out of this yarn and have to start a second skein at some point. So at this point, you're just wrapping it tautly around your frame. And so what I typically do, friends, is just wrap it 2 or 3 times, and then I'll come back to my wrapping points here and just straighten it out or tuck it in if I need to. But it's really, this wreath is 95% wrapping. So grab your yarn. You're only going to do 1 layer deep, if you can see that, friends. Let me pull it apart. 1 layer deep, and then abutting to one another. And probably every, I'd say 5 or 6 inches, I will add a drop of glue underneath the point of the yarn just to help it anchor down so it doesn't get all squirrely. So grab your yarn, anchor it down, and just start wrapping. Friends, I've basically filled up the first section. So what I'm going to do is grab my glue gun, and right where this crossbar anchors, because you can see it forms a little bit of a T, I'm just going to put a pea-sized amount of glue and then lay that next layer right on top of that glue. And then I'm just going to keep on wrapping. Friends, as you come around the curvature of your heart, you are going to have to kind of double up your fuzzy yarn on the inside of that heart, because you've got a lot more wire to cover on the outside than the inside, and that's totally fine, friends. Just keep it abutted on this side. You just want to make sure you're not ever seeing your wire frame. And if you need to overlap, which you definitely will as you work your way around these steep curvatures, that's totally fine. And as I'm wrapping on the curvatures, friends, I am going to add a drop of glue about every 4 or 5 spins of yarn here, just because it's easy on the steep curves for that to come undone, and we don't want that to be the case. All right, friends, I am working my way through this steep curvature of the top part of my heart. You can see that I'm going to have a couple of gaps here, and that's all right. I'll show you what to do with those in a bit. But what I wanted to also show you is, as you're at this recessed peak of your heart, you're going to want to add some drops of glue to both the top and bottom as you wrap those around, because it likes to slide on that point, and we don't want that sliding to happen. So make sure you're anchoring with some glue drops as you go. So when you're running your yarn over the bottom point of your heart, you're going to have to do a lot of overlapping in this 90-degree point here, because you've got a lot more space to cover here, and that's okay. Just wrap tightly and add drops of glue on that outer wire about every 3rd wraps, just to keep that in place. All right, friends, it's time to tie it off. So on the back side of your wreath, just cut your yarn off. And then what you're going to do is just tuck that yarn underneath one of your wrappings, and then tie that guy into a knot right around it. A double knot if you can. And then once you've got that double knotted, go ahead and cut off your excess. Make sure you leave about a 1/2 inch though, just as like a little security nub, and then put a drop of glue underneath it. And take your needle nose pliers or some scissors or something and push that fuzzy yarn down into your drop of glue. That'll just keep it from unfraying later. Now you want to be careful not to touch that spot. And what we're going to do at this point, friends, is just go ahead and flip your heart over. It should look something like this. And you'll notice on the wider parts, where you didn't get a drop of glue, you may see some yarn that's sliding. Here's a good example, friends. So just take your glue gun, go back into those spots that want to be bare, and put a drop of glue and just position your yarn around those open spaces. Just giving a little bitty pea-sized amount of glue and then shifting our yarn around to fill in the gaps. Just look all the way around your wreath, friends, and any place that wants to have some slide, go ahead and scooch the yarn over, add a drop of glue, and reposition. I'm going to do that about every, 3 inches, and add that drop of glue and put the yarn back in place just to keep it from shifting. This yarn is very forgiving, and so you don't have to do it very often here, but it'll just keep your wreath from having any exposed frame for you or your customer's door. All right, friends, we've got the heart done. This was the hardest part. I didn't time myself, and I intended to, but I'm guessing it took me about 15 minutes in total. And so now we're going to set this guy off to the side. We'll let those glue drops dry. It's time to move on to the next step. So we have to do all 4 of these 8-inch wire circles, friends. And I did want to mention earlier that I used probably 90% of that skein of yarn. This is all that I have left. So I'm going to go ahead and start it just because I don't want to waste it. And if you're going to use bits and pieces like I'm going to make sure you don't waste any of your yarn, as you get close to running out, just go ahead and tie it in a knot and make sure that knot is on the back side of your circular wire wreath frame, and no one will see that, friends. This yarn is super duper forgiving. So let's start one circle together here, just like what we did on our heart. You want to start on a crossbar. And so remember, you've got rings around your wire frame. In this case, we've got 3, the inner, middle, and outer. And on the small 8-inch wire frames from the Dollar Tree, you've got 3 crossbars and 3 sections. And so we're going to tie the yarn around the crossbar. That just keeps it from sliding. And I'm just running that right catty corner around it, and I'm going to double knot it, just like we did on the heart. This is a lot easier to wrap, friends. It's a smaller wreath frame, and there's not all the crazy curves that the heart has. So if you start with the heart, then it makes the rest of it seem like a piece of cake. So I'm going to tie that in a double knot. I left too much here. Let me just turn that off. Whoops. So we've double knotted or double tied to create the knot, our yarn around a crossbar. And just like what we did with the heart, friends, we're just going to keep wrapping, wrapping, wrapping. And about, at every crossbar and every third of the way through, I'm just going to add that pea-sized amount of glue to help keep our yarn from shifting and sliding. So let's work on wrapping, and then I'll meet you back here after we get done wrapping this 8-inch frame, and it's time to tie off the yarn. All right, friends, I finished wrapping my first 8-inch circle. And so just like before, I'm going to flip this over. Ironically, that little piece that I had left was just enough to complete this guy. And I'm going to tuck my leftover yarn underneath a piece of the yarn, and then I'm going to tie it in a knot doubly. And then once I've double knotted that, friends, I'm just going to trim it off and leave 1/4 of an inch of a tail of that yarn. And then I'll put a drop of glue right underneath that tail. And then I'm going to take my scissors and just poke that down in and give it a good push for about 15 seconds or so. That'll help that from coming undone. And then just like before, friends, we're going to go through our circle and just look at the outside edges, kind of push our yarn a little bit and see if we feel like there's any areas that are a little bit slippery. And we'll add a drop of glue and then pull that yarn back into place. That just keeps it from shifting over time. Be careful not to burn yourself, friends, when you're moving that yarn around. All right, once you've got those dollops of glue added in, you finished your first circle, you can set that off to dry, and we're going to go ahead and do the exact same thing with the other 3 circles. We do need all 4, so go ahead and wrap, tie down, and then add your dollops of glue to secure that yarn, and then I'll meet you back here when it's time to assemble. Now that we finally have all of our wire wreath forms totally wrapped in yarn and ready to go, it's time to assemble, friends. And I'm going to say that I used probably 2 1/4 to 2 1/3 skeins of yarn. I think everybody's going to use a little bit of a different amount just based on how tightly you wrapped your yarn. So I think if you just grab 3 skeins of yarn, you'll have plenty. So again, the vision for this paw print looks just like this. And so what we need to do now is attach all of our pieces together to create this stable paw print. So you're going to want to grab a handful of 6-inch zip ties to secure this guy down. And I know it's hard to tell, friends, just by looking, but you want the beveled side of your wreath frames at the top. So we're going to flip things over because we want to secure them with our zip ties on the back side. We don't want our customers to see the mechanics behind the scenes here. And all I'm going to do is take a zip tie and with my fingers just find any point of entry through that wire wreath frame and attach it to the first circle. Right up here at the V of what used to be our heart. And then I'm going to cinch that guy down. I'm going to leave a little teeny bit of gap there until we're totally assembled, just so that we've got some wiggle room if we need it. And now I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side of our heart. You're just looking for any place you can find a little gap. And again, cinching it down most of the way, but not all the way. And then we're going to take a zip tie and connect our 2 rings together. There we go. There we go. Now this one I did cinch down tightly, and I'm going to now cinch the other 2. So we've got 2 more circles to attach, friends, and they're going to go on either side. And you can see this is a little off-centered. That's totally fine. You can have it completely centered, slightly off to one side or the other. Just gives that paw print all the extra cuteness. So there's really no rhyme or reason to how you should be attaching it or where, as long as they're all connected and your heart is upside down. So again, I'm running this through both of our frames, cinching it down most of the way, not all the way. Adding a zip tie then to connect the two circles. There we go. And then you can cinch it tight. Probably at about 90% tension. You want to leave a little bit of give so that you've got some flex on your wreath here. And now I'm just trimming those guys down. We've got one more circle to attach. And don't worry about that showing up on the front side of your wreath, friends. This yarn, as I mentioned earlier, is super forgiving. And your zip ties are just going to disappear right down into that yarn. You could also use floral wire if that's what you've got available to you. All right, so we're going to cinch those, tied it again about 90% tension, snip off our end bits. And now we've totally assembled it. It is a little floppy, friends, and that's totally okay. That just gives it some flexibility when you hang it. And the last thing we're going to do, friends, is add a cute little bow right here in this quadrant of our paw print. So let me grab some ribbon and I'll meet you back here. All right, friends, let me scoot this guy back a little bit and I'll show you what we're going to do in terms of our bow. So I've got 4 different wired ribbons. Here are the 2 dog themes. Aren't those so cute, friends? Oh my goodness. Love. And then I've just got a black and white stripe and a brown to tie it all together. This is going to be a pretty simple bow, friends. We don't want anything too heavy in the bottom right-hand quadrant of our wreath. I'm going to make a pretty quick hand bow here, friends, and we'll speed through just for the sake of time. If you struggle with bow making, I will leave 2 separate tutorials for you below in the description of this video that will take you step by step through making a bow. So you've got that if you'd like. So I'm going to get this bow made, friends, and I'll meet you back here. All right, friends, I made my bow stack, and as you've heard me say before, if you've been on this channel, bow stacks, ribbon stacks, I should say, are not pretty when you first make them. I know that when you're first starting out, or at least for me, bows were very intimidating, but they just really take a little bit of time and giving yourself some grace as you make those. And I cinched my bow together with a 6-inch zip tie. But before I cinched it down tightly, friends, I used a heavy gauge floral wire stem so that I can poke that directly through and attach this guy down in. Before I do so, I'm just going to pull all of my tails down so they're kind of going in the right direction. This is a pretty simple bow, friends. I've just got 2 loops and 2 tails of 3 different ribbon types, and that's basically it. Because I wanted it to be a super cute accent, but I didn't want it to take away from the paw print. And so we're going to add this with our floral wire stems by poking it right through the right-hand side of the paw print and the pad of the paw. Now, you could certainly add this anywhere you like, friends, depending on where you intend to hang it. So I'm just going to poke this floral wire through here, and then we'll cinch it up on the back. Just gonna flip that guy over, take this floral wire and give it 4 or 5 tight twists just to make sure that guy is good and anchored down. And then I'm gonna take my snips and just cut those wire bits off. We don't need those. And now I'll take my needle nose pliers and just pinch those ends together and kind of curl them back down into the wreath so that they don't poke our customer or our door. And now we can flip it over and fluff out our bow. And so again, it's a simple bow, friends. I'm just going to open up our loops here. So stinking cute. With the 2.5 inch, I'm just running those straight across. I'm just opening them up and fluffing those bow loops with my fingers just to give them some life. That's why we always like to use wired or ribbon. And then with a 1.5 inch, I'm just going to make them into an X and open up those loops as I go. You can open up your loops in any direction. I'm just going to go kind of crisscross pattern here. And now I'm actually going to take a little bit of glue underneath where my bow stack is at to kind of keep it from spinning. So I'm just going to push that down with my fingers. And I added that glue, friends, basically right at the center of this bow. And it's really going to grab nicely to all the fluff in the fingers on this fur, just to give it a little bit more stability so it doesn't twist and turn. It'll take a little while to dry, friends. You can still work on your bow, just don't pull on it too hard. I'll give it a final fluff once that glue is nice and dry, friends. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and dovetail the ends. And to dovetail, you just fold your ribbon in half, and then placing your scissors on the folded side, not the open side, you're going to come down about 1/2 inch and cut up diagonally. And then when you open that up, you'll see a nice pretty V shape or a dovetail. And I'm going to trim them all at a little bit different lengths, just so that all those ribbons can peek through and shine through. And I'm being delicate here, not tugging too much on the bow because it's still drying. How cute is this, friends? This would be a great idea if you wanted to give a gift to someone who had recently adopted a pet or lost a pet. It would also be a great gift for your local shelter or your veterinarian. Or if you're like me, for yourself. And again, because they're wired, friends, you can kind of run your fingers over them. I'm just holding it down here in the center. I don't want that glue to come undone. Look how cute this turned out, friends. Oh my goodness. Thank you for spending some time and creating with me today. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. It helps my little channel to grow. And again, if you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We've got new tutorials uploading every week. Thanks, friends. Happy crafting.